Hey guys, welcome everybody. Sorry I'm late. It's been one of those days. Sorry I'm late. Sorry I'm late. Hey Jill. Hey Michelle. How are you guys doing? Sorry I am late to the live today. I'm doing great, Vanessa. I hope you are too. I have been up at the farm all morning mushrooming around and got a little bit of a late start heading back, and that threw me off for the whole day. All right. All right. I had a house cleaning day the other day, Michelle. I think I did I'm embarrassed to say I think I had to do like 8 loads of laundry. And for a single guy, that's a lot. That tells you how much my laundry had piled up. How much my laundry had piled up. Listen, it's good to see everybody today. We've got a lot to talk about. I mean, holy cow. I know we didn't have a live on Thursday. I was preparing for the event that I went to yesterday. So I appreciate your patience with all of that. But we've got a lot going on. Hey, Yvonne, good to see you. You guys put on a great event yesterday. So, man, there were a lot of people there. That's what we want to see. That's what we want to see. All right, guys, we're dual streaming again today. We're going out on YouTube and we're going out on TikTok at the same time. And the word around the campfire today is going to be it's amazing what Trump does when he doesn't have his merry band of sycophants and knotheads surrounding him. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. Rural Michigan. All right. Nana, we can chat. Send me an email, theback40family@gmail.com. Absolutely. And we can chat. I'll be saying multiple times through the live here today how you guys can become part of the Back 40 and that type of thing. So, yeah. Yvonne, it looked like you had more than that there, to be completely honest with you. Looked like you had more than 1,600 people there. If you include the overflow, I went down to the overflow right before I headed out when the event was over, and that was packed down there today too. We've got a lot to talk about today, guys. If you would, only because this helps us get the word out and it helps the number of people on the live grow. If you guys don't mind, if you're on TikTok, keep hitting that like button and sharing. And if you're on YouTube, do the same thing. Hit the like button and subscribe. If you're not familiar with YouTube, if you've only come over here because of the Back 40, down below the chat on the right-hand side, there's a little heart there. And if you share that, if you click on that, like live, that helps. That helps. Hillsdale County, no one has broke ground yet. Okay. I got you. Yeah, Nana, send me an email, theback40family@gmail.com. So, but we got a lot to talk about, and it's kind of interesting because the last few days we've seen a lot more of the same type of craziness coming out of the Trump administration that we've seen since they came into office. And it sounds crazy to say this less than 100 days ago, but the chorus of pushback and the number of roadblocks going up against this administration, those are also increasing. So we can't forget that. So we're going to talk today about that. We're going to go for a little bit shorter time today because I got to be honest with you guys. This is, for any of you that farm and ranch, it's no different with me than it is with you, even though I do specialty type stuff. This is the busy time of year. We've still got all kinds of elderberry we've got to get in the ground. We've got different plants that we want to start. And I'm embarrassed to say, even though it's been beautifully tilled for a couple of weeks now, I still haven't even finished putting my own garden in. So the sweet corn is not in the ground. And I don't know. I got to get out there and I've got to do my own work. So we might go for a little bit shorter time today, but we've still got a lot to talk about. We do. All right, let's jump into it, guys. Let's get started today. I wanted to start out by talking about, and I saw this as a little bit of a positive, and we don't say very many positive things about Trump. And I guess in the end, even though what I'm about to say is a little bit positive, in the end, it's still a criticism. Because I don't know if you guys saw the news today or saw the articles about this today, but President Trump went over to the Pope's funeral, Pope Francis's funeral, and while he was there, some of the other leaders in NATO, they pulled I want to call it a smooth one, but I also want to call it a good one. It was a good one that they pulled. So I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but while they were there, the president of France, Macron, and the Prime Minister of Great Britain, Starmer, they got Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, alone in a meeting area with Trump, and the two of them sat down and talked together. Now, I want to make a couple of points here. If you go and you take a look at the meeting between President Trump and Zelensky that happened at St. Peter's Basilica in Rome, you're going to notice a couple of things that jump out immediately. Okay. First of all, none of the useful cast of idiots that were present in the Oval Office the day that this country embarrassed itself in more ways than we could ever tabulate on a single live, none of those people were there. Okay. The Stephen Millers, not there. Marjorie Taylor Greene's junk boyfriend that pretends to be a reporter asking questions about suits, not there. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, whose testicles Donald Trump keeps in a wooden box beside his desk in the White House, not there. The cast of characters that made the event in the Oval Office so embarrassing, they weren't there. Okay? They weren't there. So what happened is the president, when he was at St. Peter's Basilica and he was meeting with Zelensky, who were the people that were around that you could literally see whispering in Trump's ear? Who were those people? Well, first, you had the president of France, Macron, and you had the British Prime Minister, Starmer. And those two, it was very obvious, facilitated this meeting between Zelensky and Trump. And what happens at the meeting? Okay. Well, they meet at St. Peter's Basilica. They don't have any of the idiots from the White House there with them that know nothing about international relations, that know nothing about diplomacy, that are simply all the people that were kept out of government for decades and decades because of their idiocy, stupidity, and their inability to get the job done. Those people all serve in the White House now. They weren't there. Okay. So this meeting happens because of the work of the president of France, Macron, and because of the British Prime Minister, Starmer. And several things happened here. And I think there were other reasons why this meeting went well. Okay. And let me tell you what a couple of those are. First of all, reason number one, we already talked about it. The useless band of idiots that the president has surrounded himself with in the White House, they weren't there. Okay. They weren't there. Secondly, the polling overall in Ukraine is very anti-Russia right now. I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but the more that Trump goes out there and the more his sycophants go out there and try to push this narrative that Ukraine needs to give up Crimea and that they need to give up 20% of their territory in order to make this peace plan work, the more they push that version of the ceasefire, the less popular the president's plan for a ceasefire is. And what do I mean by that? The president was slammed. I don't know if you guys saw this, but when Zelensky said it's just a no-go for us to give up Crimea and 20% of our territory, the president came out last week and really hit Zelensky hard on this and said, well, if he's not willing to give up at least Crimea, then, he really doesn't care if the war ends. He's not really in it for his people. And not only in the media, but in the polling that came out after that, the president was blasted in that polling for making that statement. The American people 100% do not agree with the idea that Ukraine should have to give up its sovereign territory. Now, sad to say, I think the primary thing driving this, bear with me 1 second here. I think the primary thing driving this are some memes that are going around that show what the equivalent amount of territory would be if somebody were attacking the United States and asking them to give up the same amount of land. I've seen this meme everywhere on right wing social media. And I told you guys, I take the hit for you so you don't have to do it. I go out on, actually, I'm doing Dr. Pepper Zero today. Dr. Pepper Zero today. But I go out on social media. I watch Fox News. I go out onto right leaning social media so you guys don't have to. And I will tell you that even on right wing social media, this meme is circulating that's showing the entire eastern seaboard that's what we would have to give up in the event that we were attacked if we were being asked to create a ceasefire or stop a war by giving up the same amount of territory. And if there's one thing that MAGA understands in their desire to annex Canada, in their desire to annex Greenland, in their desire to, now they're talking about annexing Mexico, if there's one thing that breaks through the brain fog, it's this concept of territory. So seeing this meme that shows up having to give up the entire eastern seaboard over to the Appalachian Mountains in order to get a ceasefire, if the United States were being asked to do the same thing, it's hit a nerve inside MAGA, inside the supporters of the president. So the polling that came out after Trump did this on the 23rd, thank you for the gifts, guys. I really appreciate it. The polling that came out after the president did this on the 23rd was very bad for Trump. 46% of Americans say the USA is not doing enough to help Ukraine right now. And the number of people that say we're doing too much is down below 20. 46% of Americans say the USA is not doing enough to help Ukraine. And to make the bigger point, the more the president has talked about this, the more he's taken a pro-Russia stance on this, the more he's pushed to give Russia what they want in an effort to lead to a ceasefire there, the more public opinion is turned against him on Ukraine. Let me tell you what I mean. 46% of Americans say the USA is not doing enough to help Ukraine. That's up 16% from when the president came into office, when he was inaugurated. That's up 16% from when the president came into office. The more this administration slants pro-Putin, the more the American people are pushing back and saying, no, we need to do more for Ukraine. And this is why the president got so upset the last couple of days, because he knew the White House has pollsters that work there. They've got public opinion people that work there. And they knew that these attacks on civilians that were leaking out in the media, video that was coming out of Ukraine showing the Russians intentionally attacking civilians, that this was just causing this pro-Ukrainian sentiment to climb even higher and even higher here in the United States. So this is good news. Now, the problem with Trump is that once he says something, you never know if he's going to stick to it, right? The tariffs are in place. They're not in place. We're going to tariff Canada. We're not going to tariff Canada. We're going to tariff Mexico. We're not going to tariff Mexico. We're going to make Canada and Mexico do a whole bunch of stuff for us, and then we ask them to do stuff that they've already done. We're going to tariff Europe. Then we're not going to tariff Europe. We're going to tariff China. Then we're going to lie and say that the Chinese came crawling back to us on their hands and knees. So now we're not going to tariff China. Oh, but now we are again. So the problem with Trump is that you never know when he says he's going to do something or when he makes an unequivocal statement about something. You don't know if he's telling the truth or if it's just a negotiating tactic. Exactly, Cass, the fart of the deal. I couldn't have said it better myself. But Trump came away from the meeting today making the comment, you know what? Now that I've sat down and talked with Zelensky, and I've allowed the president of France and the prime minister of Great Britain to talk with me without the useless idiots at the White House sitting around me, I kind of think that maybe this Putin guy is not serious about ending the war. These were Trump's words today. I'm starting to think that Putin is not serious about ending the war. Now, I have mixed feelings about this because I, like anybody else, I'm always really happy when somebody that I've been trying to get to understand something for a really, really long time finally comes around. Finally comes around. Like, wow, they finally get it. The lights went off. The elevator's going to the top floor. The cheese has slid back on the cracker, whatever you want to say. So Trump made the comment today after these meetings. He said, "You know what? I'm starting to see the light. I think there's a good chance that Putin is not in this to end the war." And of course, all of us were sitting here going, "Well, you think? I mean, do you think?" We've been saying that all along. I mean, Trump wants to end the war, but he wants to do it in a pro-Russia, pro-Putin, uh, pro-Putin way. Now, there are a lot of people that are arguing that there are some very nefarious reasons for that. I just think Trump is trying to do it that way because he thinks it's the quickest way he can close the deal. He knows Putin is not going to agree with the terms of a surrender that doesn't allow him to keep at least Crimea and probably not the Donbass. So he thought he could push Zelensky around. And now what he's finding out the hard way is that not only does Ukraine not want to be pushed around and give up territory, not only does Europe not support this effort, but even here in the United States, people are not supporting this. Even here in the United States, people are not supporting this. And guys, a 16% move in the polling in just 4 months is an incredible move. And I know it's a combination of, Zelensky and the Ukrainians and the Europeans are much better at getting the point across at public relations than this administration is. But the bottom line is that the American people, their opinion is turning more and more pro-Ukraine every day, and the polling shows that. And that's all you've got to remember from a perspective of being here on the back 40. That's all you need to remember. Okay? Because these pro-Trump folks can come into the comments and make all the comments they want. Saying it's not true and it actually being not true are two completely different things. And they just haven't learned that yet. But at least I think that's another positive we can cling to. And why am I saying all this? Because I want to make the point again that what you are doing out there is making a difference. It's paying off. We've already seen Trump's numbers. I think you guys probably saw the Fox polls that came out last week that sent Trump off the edge. He came on to Truth Social one night, and just made all kinds of crazy accusations and assertions. I've been asking for years for Fox News to fire their pollsters who hate Trump. All these other crazy assertions that he made because he didn't like the polling that came out from Fox News that showed the wheels are coming off this administration. Right? He's underwater across the board on the economy. And for the first time ever, he's underwater on his handling of immigration. For the first time ever, he's underwater on his handling of immigration. What do I mean by underwater? I mean that there are more people that don't think he's doing a good job in this country than think he is doing a good job. And it's across the board. People don't support the tariffs, where he's underwater by over 20%. People don't support the direction of the economy, where he's underwater. People don't think he has an understanding of the economy, where he's underwater. For the first time ever, people don't think he's a good businessman. He's underwater when asked the question about, do you think Donald Trump was a successful business person? He's underwater there. More people think he was a failure than think he was a leader. I don't know if you saw the Fox News poll, but we talked about this the last few weeks. 25% of Republicans have turned on the president in regard to the economy. Now that number's almost up to 30%. And the approval rating, which had barely been in the 40s, it had been kind of dancing back and forth between 43 and 45. And don't forget, I've been doing polling and political consulting for nearly 30 years. It was bouncing back and forth between the two. Well, the Fox News poll showed that his approval rating is now at 40%. And you can rest assured it will be in the 30s within the next couple of weeks. You can rest assured it will be in the 30s within the next couple of weeks. So the president had this meeting, and I might mention, I think I saw a couple of you mention it. I may have seen it in the comments as well. But the president showed up to the Pope's funeral in a blue suit. And I know this is petty, but can you just imagine the outcry if Barack Obama would have worn a blue suit to the funeral of the most beloved religious leader in the world? They would have lost their minds. They would have lost their minds. They would have lost their minds. So then on top of that, you've got all this happening over at the Pope's funeral. And I kind of got a chuckle out of this because I've always admired Pope Francis just in terms of, and listen, I don't think he went far enough by any stretch of the imagination, but I've admired him for his willingness to stand up and to really call out the actions of, this administration and the trend that America is going in terms of, this wannabe totalitarianism. And I just thought it was interesting that even at the Pope's funeral, world leaders were using that as an opportunity to try to accomplish diplomacy with the President of the United States. And I got to say, St. Peter's Basilica, with the paintings on the walls and the paintings on the ceiling, and you're there for the funeral of the Pope who preached peace and goodwill and love not only for your neighbor, but for your enemies. Maybe that was a really good place to do it. Then in addition to that, the president had an interview. I don't know if you guys saw this, but back toward the beginning of the week on the 22nd, the president did an interview with Time. And oh my gosh, did the wheels come off during that interview. I mean, I watch these things. I watch the press conferences and I read these interviews, and just when, hey, Skip, how are you? Just when I think that things can't get any worse, they exceed expectations in regard to how bad you think things can be. They do make them worse. So in the interview on April 22nd, the president said he would sign a ban on members of Congress trading stock. Good thing, right? We've all been complaining about that. I mean, nobody's been screaming louder than the people on the left about going to Congress being a way to become a millionaire. Oddly enough, he's already backtracking for that. Then in that same interview, he said he's not asked El Salvador to return Garcia. Now, this is my problem with that. And this is why I hope somebody in the administration is held in contempt over this entire Garcia situation. Even if you do the most conservative reading of this Supreme Court ruling, even if you do the most conservative reading of it, what does it say? At a minimum, it says that the Trump administration needs to be doing everything they possibly can, at a minimum, just to facilitate the return. Now, you and I both know, everybody on TikTok, everybody on YouTube watching this live right now, you know that if the president of the United States of America picked up the phone and called his little gangster buddy down in El Salvador and said, put Garcia on a plane and send him back again, or at a minimum, take him to the airport where we can have a plane ready to bring him back again, it would be immediate. It would happen immediately. It would be done. So I don't understand how this administration can make the argument that they're meeting the court order and that they're doing everything they can do when the president admits during an interview with one of the largest news organizations in the country that he has not even picked up the phone to ask El Salvador to return Garcia. And again, it just plays into this same game that we've been talking about for the last 2 weeks, right? And it's the same song and dance that we saw in the Oval Office when the President of the United States elevated a third world dictator to the same level of the presidency of the United States. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that while the man was sitting in the White House, the President of the United States elevated the President of El Salvador to the same position and level of power as the President of the United States by saying, we can't make him send this man back. He gave up his own power because all of us know that that's not true. All of us know that that's not true. If the president made a phone call today and told his gangster buddy in El Salvador to send back Garcia, Garcia would be on a plane headed back to the United States today. And I'm going to keep telling you guys the same thing I keep telling everybody. Don't get caught up in the debate over whether Garcia did this or did that or did this or did that. That is a strategy by the Trump administration, okay? It's a strategy by the Trump administration to talk about the things that these men may or may not have done so that we take our eye off the really important ball, which is everyone in this country, whether they're a citizen or not, deserves due process when they're accused of anything. It is a fundamental right in this country. It is a fundamental right in this country. And guys, I'm just telling you, this administration does this all the time. As a political consultant, I can tell you we've been so effective when it comes to winning races against this administration around the country because we don't get caught up in the nuts and bolts of fighting over the ancillary issues. Well, his wife may or may not have had a restraining order against him. A judge may or may not have said this. He may or may not have done that. Don't get caught up in arguing the semantics of the man himself, because the bigger issue is the overall constitutional issue that since the beginning of this nation's inception and when we put the Constitution in place, the idea that we all deserve due process in the event that we are accused of anything is a fundamental right. And I'm just telling you, the slippery slope of rights, talk to some of our friends of color, talk to women. Inevitably, when we eliminate due process for one group or we try to do that, there is a slippery slope that carries us down into the ravine of rights being taken away for all. You don't think they're planning that? What do you think they meant when the president looked over at his third world dictator buddy from El Salvador and said, build more prisons because we're coming after the homegrowns next? Because they know they're the masters of pushing the line, of moving the goalpost, of forcing up the Mendoza line, whatever you want to call it. Some of you are going to be out there Googling the Mendoza line. And then you're going to know I'm a sports buff. But they're the masters of pushing this back. And anytime you're going to try to deny people rights, where do you start? You start with the least like group of people you can find. Accused criminals. Well, guess what? Guess what, guys? It just so happens that under our system of constitutional government, it's criminals or people that have been accused of crime that need to take advantage of due process. So don't get caught up in the semantics of the characteristics of this man or that woman. Clear the air. Remove the background noise. It's the fact that they're trying to take away our constitutional right to due process. And listen, I don't normally do this, but I'm going to say this. I'm going to regret saying it because I don't like to attack people personally. But if you're still out there making the argument that illegal immigrants don't have a right to due process in this country, you are a naive, constitutional moron. It's been weeks since this debate started. Okay. First of all, you didn't pay any attention in middle school in 8th grade social studies class when they talked about the different amendments, especially when they covered the 6th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. If you don't know that basic rule, if you think that just because you're a foreign citizen or you come here illegally or you weren't born here or you have birthright citizenship, whatever it might be, if you think that you don't have the constitutional rights that are guaranteed in the 6th Amendment to the Constitution, then you are a moron. Willfully. Go look up the word. You are being willfully ignorant if you believe that nonsense. And I can just picture like the MAGA person sitting there and saying, well, by God, if you're an illegal, you don't have these rights. And just thinking that they had really hit gold. That they had really hit gold. Oh my God, I just solved the argument. I'm going to rush out to TikTok. I'm going to get on to Facebook. I'm going to go to my Instagram page and I'm going to let everybody know something they didn't know. And that is, if you're an illegal immigrant or an undocumented immigrant, you don't have the same rights that people in America do. Well, you don't have all the rights that people in America do. But guess what you do have? You have a right to due process guaranteed under the Constitution of the United States. Why do you think there is a process in place to prove that somebody is an undocumented immigrant, to prove that they have broken the law in order to justify a deportation back to their country of origination? Why do you think there is a process for that? Why do you think that happens under Democrat and Republican administrations time after time after time after time? Going all the way back to the Eisenhower years and before. Because these rights are guaranteed in the Constitution. And if you don't know that, you shouldn't be participating in the town square argument. It's that simple. You don't know what you're talking about, and therefore we're not forced under any stretch of the imagination to lend credibility to what you're saying. It would be the same as if I was standing out there looking at a herd of cattle and you walked up to me and said, you know, Will, I know a lot about giraffes. Let me tell you about these giraffes out here. I would immediately assume, rightfully so, that when it comes to cattle, you're a moron. So if you come into my comments and you say that somebody that's here undocumented doesn't have constitutional rights, you're a moron. When it comes to constitutional rights, you don't know what you're talking about. What else did Trump lie about in his interview? Man, I'll tell you what, he went nuts when he started talking about tariffs. He told the person from Time that he's made over 200 deals on trade. 200 deals on trade. Well, Mr. President, can you tell us about one? No, can't share the details. Well, can you just tell us one country that you're talking to? Well, Z called me from China. Now listen to where he takes this, because you guys know, you've all known somebody that's a pathological liar. You guys have, you've all met somebody who is a narcissist, and you know that the first liar never has a chance with a narcissist, right? He can't just say that we're working on these deals. I don't want to tell you how many. I don't want to tell you who it's with. Just know that we're working on them. So first he's got to lie and say, well, I've already made 200 deals. Tell me about just one of them. Can't do it. Then they go to their sources in the White House. Tell us about just one of them. Can't do it. So when the spotlight's put on him, what does he do again? He lies again and he says, you know, President Z called me basically begging for mercy. And I don't think that was a weakness in his character to call me, because he's just trying to do the right thing by his country. Well, the media, being as the media is, they go back and they start calling the Chinese government, the Chinese embassy in the United States, and talking to their sources in the White House. And what do you think they found out? What do you think they found out? Let me see it in the comments. Do you think Z actually called him? No. No, Z did not call him. Z did not call him. Real shocker there. Real shocker there. And just in case you were wondering if he was happy to double down on the crazy, they asked him, Mr. President, you've been talking a lot about, tariffs and trade, and you've been talking about these negotiations that have been going on that you can't document or solidify or tell us where the talks were, what country they're with. What about this Canada annexation thing? And I know we've got a lot of you that follow us from Canada. So I wanted to make sure I got this in here today because it was part of the Time interview that he did. What about this Canada annexation thing? Are you really serious about this? Or is this just kind of, part of the strategy to goad the Canadians? And Trump says, oh, yeah, I'm really serious about annexing Canada. Not only that, I'm not joking about it when I say I want to annex Greenland. And then, my friends from Canada, listen to this. Listen to what he says about your country, your people, and your government. Check it out. We do everything for Canada. This is the president, okay? This isn't Pops. Don't come at Pops because I love me some Canadians. But he says, we do everything for Canada. We pay for all their military. We protect them when things go wrong. We give them billions of dollars every year to make their life easier. We do everything for them, quote unquote. So follow the logic. Since we do everything for them, since we're already paying for everything, we have a right to annex Canada. Now, listen, I want to hear from some of you, some of our Canadian farmhands, but this is what I'm hearing when I talk to my friends in Canada. These are the messages I'm getting from our friends in Canada when they message me. And what you guys have been telling me is that for a long time out in Western Canada, on the Western Plains out there, Alberta and that area, that there's been kind of a Canadian MAGA movement brewing out there for a long time. But the word I'm getting back is that the president's talk is so crazy, it's so infuriating to Canadians that it literally has turned the election polling around in Canada. That the Conservatives, who were overwhelmingly expected to win, are now on the opposite side of the win-loss equation. And that it's even damaged the Canadian MAGA movement in Alberta and places like that. That the popularity of the MAGA movement has fallen significantly because of Trump's treatment of Canada, the tariffs, and what he said about the laziness of the Canadian people and the fact that we're, quote unquote, doing everything for them. Is that true, my Canadian friends? Is that a correct summary? I mean, that's what I'm hearing based on what you guys tell me. Yes, it's helping me. Now, the other thing the president said after he said he made 200 tariff deals, even though we haven't even tariffed 200 countries, after he said President Z called him begging for help, and then we found out not only from the Chinese government, but from people in the White House that no, we haven't even been meeting with the Chinese. It's pretty bad when you tell a lie like that, and then the Commerce Secretary comes out and says we're not even meeting with the Chinese. Then on top of that, he says, I've got all kinds of people begging me to run for a third term. But I'm not looking into that possibility of running again. I just don't want to use any gimmicks or tricks or loopholes to run again for president. But I do want everyone to know that there are millions of people begging me to run again because I've been so good for America. There are millions of people asking me to run again because it's been so good for America. So that one's a yet to be seen. Is he just drumming up the talk of a third term in order to own the libs, et cetera? Is it a grit? Well, Nana makes the point, about him selling hats for 2028. How much of that is a grift? I mean, the bottom line is, what is Trump now? Is he 81 years old? Somebody look that up. Is he 81 now? 80, 81? How old is Trump now? Somebody give me the comment. Let me see. 78. So he's closing in on 80. He'll be 81, right then at the end of this term, 81, 82. That would make him 86 at the end of his second term. I mean, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? What could go wrong? What else did Trump say? Well, as part of that Fox polling, whenever you dig into the data in the polling and you look at these other polls like YouGov, something else that's really unpopular right now are cuts to Medicaid. Have you guys noticed that there are Republican senators out there that are starting to come out now and say they're going to oppose cuts to Medicaid, like my Senator Josh Hawley here in Missouri? Do you know why they're doing that? Do you know why they're doing that? Because of rural health care. In my state, it's rural Missouri, where I live, that elects Donald Trump and elects the Republicans in my state. And they know that over 40% of rural health care, rural insurance, is paid for by contributions from Medicaid. They also know that over 50% of the little kids in rural America also get their insurance from Medicaid. And what's been happening is there's been this groundswell through organizations like the Rural Healthcare Association, rural hospital associations, in the town halls that they are participating in. People have been raising their voices, they've been protesting, even Republicans on this issue, guys. I can tell you, I've heard multiple, like if you go to my Facebook page, I've got friends on there that are in nursing in the little rural town that I grew up in. If I had to guess, I would say these are people that have voted Republican their entire life, but even they are speaking up and talking about what damage cuts in Medicaid would do to rural hospitals and rural insurance. You're not alone, Nana. We've got 700 rural hospitals around the country that are about to close, 64 alone in my state of Missouri. So the reason why these senators, some of them are starting to change their mind, is because even rural Republican polling is turning against them on Medicaid cuts. So what did the president say in his interview? He said, well, if anybody tries to cut Medicaid, anything other than waste and mismanagement, that's important. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. If they try to cut anything other than waste and mismanagement, I'll veto that. I'll veto that effort. Now, why do you think he put that caveat in there about waste and mismanagement? Because we know their track record on waste and mismanagement, don't we? Have you seen the numbers? Have you seen why Elon Musk is tucking his tail in between his legs and going back to his compound in Texas? Who can tell me why? We got a smart group here. Who can tell me why? There you go. The waste and mismanagement. Good job, Lee. The waste and mismanagement is his way of cutting Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. That's what they're going to claim, guys. You can make the argument that you're going to veto cuts to Medicaid, and at the same time, you're going to try to claim that the cuts that are actually made that you don't veto or all waste and mismanagement. These are the word games that they play. Instead of just admitting we need to cut $4.5 trillion out of this deficit so that we can give the wealthy in this country a $4 trillion tax break, instead of just saying that out loud and then letting the American people decide if they think that that's a good idea or not, they're going to lie about it. They're going to say, well, technically, we didn't cut Medicaid. We just cut out waste and mismanagement. And look at what's happened with Doge so far. Elon Musk is going back to Texas with his tail between his legs, and he hasn't even cut out 1% of the waste that he claims that he cut out. Great way to put it, Jay. Waste and mismanagement is the Trojan horse. Excellent way to put it. Star on the paper. Double G, perfect. Waste and mismanagement equals poor people. Couldn't have said it better myself. And Nana, you are right. He does have all of our info now. And you can rest assured that's going into a database. Let me tell you guys something a little bit scary. And I want you to be scared about this because this needs to be reversed. We can't just throw our hands up in the air and say, well, it's a good thing that Elon Musk is leaving government, because he's leaving government with billions of pieces of microdata. Now, I'm going to tell you what I'm able to do as a civilian, okay? So those of you that have followed me for a long time, you know that I do a few different things. I'm a farmer. I raise mushrooms. I raise elderberries. I raise blackberries. I do a little agroforestry. And you also know that I've been a political consultant in rural America for a long, long time. And let me tell you what I'm able to do legally when I buy data. Okay? All I need is a couple of pieces of data about you. All right? All I need typically is your name and your address, a name and a phone number, some combination of data there that I can buy as a political consulting firm. And with that, I can then go out to these major data reporting companies around the country, and I can get everything else I want to know about you. When I say everything else, I mean, if I've got your name and address, I can get your cell phone number, your landline phone number, your age, your party affiliation. I can learn how you're indexed, meaning do you lean Democrat? Do you lean Republican? Based on surveys that you have filled out over the years where you just checked yes to the terms of agreement. And what you didn't know you were doing is that was allowing all of your data to be shared out there to these different data reporting houses. I can learn every single different election district that you fall into. I can look and see what elections you have voted in the past. I can see if you took a Republican ballot or a Democratic ballot in the primary. Now, the other thing that I can do based on public reporting that's out there is I can see if you work for a public company and you're an officer in a public company, I can see what your family household income is as well. All this is just data I can buy to use as targeting data in a political campaign. Winter, it's the van system on the Democratic side, but I'm just talking about if I go to I can go to Aristotle or, L2 or any of these other big data companies out there, and I can buy all of this data. I can buy all of this data just with a couple of pieces of information. And then what I can do is I can target you, not in a bad way, but I can target the message that I'm going to deliver to you to get you to vote a certain way based on this data that I've purchased. Now, the reason I tell you about all that is because that's what I'm legally able to do just as a person running a business out here. And it's not just in politics, guys. It's happening everywhere. I mean, there are companies out there that sell widgets that are buying data about people to determine who are the best people to sell widgets to. A marketing campaign, it's not just about a great idea, okay? It's about all the data that's been bought and is it targeted toward getting people to buy. Now I bring all this up because now with Doge coming in, and this is why we've got to have congressional hearings about whether or not Elon Musk was able to take that data that he took from these government systems and take it back to Twitter with him. Or what are the websites that are being built? Because now with this, I would know everything about you. I would know if you've ever paid your taxes late, how far behind were you on your taxes, what were your medical expenditures, what were you being treated for? All of that. All of that would be in the data that he has. And you can rest assured that you're going to see political enemies of this administration being targeted based on this data. All of a sudden, you had an arrangement with the IRS to pay off your taxes over 6 years. All of a sudden, that arrangement's gone, and you have to pay now, or you're going to be in serious trouble. You're going to be indicted because of your political ideology. Maybe you were going to get a grant. Maybe you were going to be able to get an SBA loan to grow your business. Now, with all this data that they have that they can target with, we're going to see more and more of this. They're already doing it on the immigration front, right? They're already doing it in the targeting for immigration. Lisa, it should be working, and you should have gotten a notification. Hang on a second. I'm going to check that out, Lisa. I'm going to check that out. Thanks for letting me know. But the bottom line is this data stuff should scare you guys. But the good news is you just need to add it to the list of things that you're pushing back against, that you're protesting about, that you're fighting against. Because the protests are working, guys. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time going through it again because I did at the beginning of the live. But the bottom line is this president's approval numbers, they are tanking. Do you know how painful it had to be for Fox News to put up the approval ratings for presidents within their first 100 days in office? And how painful was it for Trump and his supporters to have to look at that polling information and see that the only president who did a worse job in his first 100 days in office than Trump's second term was Trump during his first term? How bad was that? Double, you make the point. You're making the point exactly where I was going to go. We've got to keep the pressure on. We've got to keep the pressure on. We've got to keep showing up at these protests. We've got to keep doing our phone calls. We've got to keep writing our letters. We've got to keep going into these offices in person. I'll tell you something that U.S. Angry Veterans been doing that if I had time to do it, I would every day. And if you guys have time to do it, you should. He's been going into his elected congressman's office every single day because he still hasn't heard back from them. Every single day. It's so funny because I don't know if you watch the videos, when he goes into the office now, they know him by name. He's talking with him about the trip they went on over Easter. He's talking with him about their upcoming vacation plans. But he goes in every single day to let the poor guy that works behind the counter know, I still haven't heard from the congressperson. But his numbers are tanking, guys, and the numbers of this Congress are tanking as well. I don't know if you've seen the numbers, but the numbers for this Congress are the worst of any Congress since we started keeping the numbers. The approval numbers of this Congress are the worst since we started keeping numbers on this. And then finally, just to close things out, when the president was asked again about Ukraine and the Ukrainian war, he said, well, Crimea is going to have to stay with Russia. And Ukraine is not going to be able to go into NATO. Doughboy, I think they're at 13%. So here he is, before he goes to the Pope's funeral, before he goes to these remembrances, and before he meets with Zelensky, even then he was preaching this message of Ukraine's going to have to give up territory. Hold on a second, guys. I'm sorry. There we go. TikTok has all kinds of incredible puzzles now. Now you have to select when you go in there. You can't just move the puzzle piece. You have to go in there and select, like, what items are most likely used in a classroom? What items would you most often see in a car? And of course, it's so damn small that I can't even see it with my glasses on. Last thing I wanted to talk about, guys, before I get into your questions for the day, because remember, we're not going quite as long today. And I'm sorry, guys, but a farmer's got a farm, right? We've got rains coming in tonight at 1 a.m., and I've just got a lot I need to get done. But you guys know how much I appreciate you. Last thing I wanted to talk about, the arrest of this judge in Milwaukee. Now, listen, I made the point a little while ago when I was talking to you. I said, don't get caught up in the character assassinations on Garcia. That's what they want us to do, right? That's what they want us to do. They want to continuously assault his character and keep us focused on talking about that, because the longer we're talking about that, the less we're talking about the really important issue, which is the denial of due process to people in this country. Don't fall victim to their shenanigans. This is what they all do, guys. This is what Charlie Kirk does. This is what Steve Bannon does. This is what the little bald-headed schnazi, Stephen Miller does. Don't lose sight of the real argument here. So with Garcia and with these other immigrants that were sent to El Salvador without due process, it's not a question. It's not a question about their character. We would not be having this same argument if they received their legitimate due process right and then they were deported back to their original country of origination based on the fact that they received due process and they were found guilty. The reason this is a problem is because they were denied due process. And what is it that Jefferson said? It's better that 100 guilty men go free than one innocent man be in prison. I'm going to say the same thing about this judge. I have talked to several attorneys, and I've seen several attorneys that I really respect, like Dye and Crassus and Hawk and other people like that on this app, that have said, yes, there's probably something wrong in what she did. It wasn't wrong that she told, these agents that they needed to have a different type of warrant. It wasn't wrong that she sent them down to talk to the chief judge, but there may be something wrong with her sending them out this side door where there was a non-public exit. Okay. But this is the thing, guys. They're going to try to make the argument. They were already doing it on television yesterday. Remember, Pam Bondi came on the air. This is the Attorney General of the United States of America that lives under a strict rule that you do not weigh in on these types of cases. You do not make moral judgments about the accused. You do not make claims about what the accused may or may not have done. And here's Pam Bondi out there just claiming as if it's fact that this judge broke multiple rules, multiple guidelines. She destroyed evidence. She was obstructing justice. She even made this crazy claim where she says, if you try to arm undocumented workers or undocumented immigrants, If you try to arm them or if you try to harbor and conceal felons, we're going to come after you. What in the hell was she talking about there? So, once again, I just want to make the point to you guys. They're going to try to make the argument about the immigrant that was in the courtroom. They're going to try to make the argument about what it is it that the judge did or didn't do. When the real argument is, if you talk to people in the legal profession, the real argument is that this was just a way for them to arrest a judge in front of a courthouse to intimidate other judges that are ruling against them. I want to say that again. They could have arrested her at her home. They could have gone to the chief judge and said, this behavior can't be supported. We want to work with you to sanction her. Okay? There are a lot of different ways that this could be handled. It wasn't handled that way because the argument that we need to be remain focused on is that the reason they wanted to arrest this judge at work in the parking lot in front of everybody there, including other judges, and where they knew there would be cameras, etc. They were sending a message to other judges in the judicial branch of this country to say, rule against us, stand against us, and we can get you too. That's what this was about. Don't get caught up in all of the other things that they're going to try to get you to talk about. That's what this was about. This was about intimidation of the judicial branch, pure and simple. Pure and simple. And again, we all talked about this when they did what they did to Zelensky in the Oval Office, how they all sit there and they grin and they put on their Cheshire Cat BS and they pretend as if they're not doing anything wrong, knowing that they're making false claims, claiming that it was Ukraine that attacked Russia, claiming that there are 5,000 people per day, most of them on the Ukrainian side, that are passing away every day. All the lies that they tell. And they're doing the same thing here. They know that what they're saying about this judge destroying evidence, trying to give firearms to these people, harboring and concealing criminals, they know all of that's not true. They know all of that's not true. All right. I want to say really quickly this. I need to tell you how you can join us here at the Back 40. Guys, we have been going all over the country talking about these important issues. All over the country. We've been to northern Missouri, southeast Missouri, southwest Missouri, Kansas. We're going to be headed to upstate New York. We've got a call on the 30th. For those of you in upstate New York, we've got a call on the 30th where we're going to start hammering out the details of that. And we'll be able to tell you when. We're going to be in New Jersey. We're going to be in North Carolina. And we're going to be going down to Texas. And we're hoping that when we go down to Texas, we're going to be in East Texas. We're going to be in Burnett, Texas, right outside of Austin. And we're going to be in El Paso as well. We're going to be in El Paso as well. So we're going all over the country. If you go today and you go to www.theback40official.com, all spelled out, www.theback40official.com, make Zeppo crazy when I put the www in there, and that's why I do it. Go there, sign up to get our updates, and there are multiple things you can do while you're there. You can sign up, and we'll get updates out to you on a regular basis. We don't sell your data. We don't traffic your data. It's just between you and us. It's our way to communicate to you all the different things we're doing. While you're there, you can donate to the Back 40. I'm just going to be brutally honest with you guys. Up until now, I've been paying for the vast majority of this out of my own pocket, and we need some help with that. We're putting a podcast together. I can tell you we've got some incredible guests, former U.S. senators. We've got some Hollywood types that grew up or believe in rural America issues. We've got advocacy groups from around the country fighting for teachers, fighting for good schools, fighting for better healthcare in rural America. All of them are going to be coming on the podcast. So there's a way that you can support the podcast there. We've got some great merchandise. We've got a wonderful mug. We've got a great shirt. I'm going to wear this shirt on my Tuesday Live. Finally came in. And in addition to that, we've got other things that we're adding at the beginning of the week. Rosie, I'm really excited to come down to Texas. I'll do that, SW. I'll do that. We're still kind of trying to figure YouTube out, but let me make a note of that. Anything you guys can do to help out, we very much appreciate it. And bear with us. The company that does our website, they're doing a phenomenal job, but they're building out a lot of stuff for us, including the donation buttons. And, they're putting the podcasts that we've been on down there. They're trying to link in different arguments or articles, that spell out the arguments that we've been making around the country. So just bear with us, because sometimes when they go in there to make changes, it does something to the website, so something might go down for a little while. These are growing pains. These are growing pains. But we really need your help. And listen, guys, I just want to tell you again, I know I say this every time, but I'd be very remiss if I didn't. Everything that we're able to do. And I got to tell you guys, I think the reason why this is taking off and the reason why so many people are coming to ask me to speak, the reason why I got asked to serve on this people's committee with the DNC, where we're going to go around the country and listen to rural people, all of this is happening because of you guys. Every bit of it is happening because of you. I remind you all the time, who can tell me, what did my grandpa say? If you're out there trying to lead and nobody's following you, what are you? Who can remember? If you're out there trying to lead and nobody is following you, what are you? That's right. You're just a guy taking a walk. But we've got to get the word out about rural America, guys, because we're losing it. We are losing it. The top 400 agricultural counties in this country are losing population. They're losing their schools. They're losing their businesses and enterprise. The farmers are getting older. And you know who is standing on the sidelines to whoop up these farms and ranches when they go into foreclosure or they sell? It's Wall Street. It's corporate ag. It's foreign governments. So I'm doing my part to go around the country and to try to fight this. And you are there with me doing that because of your support for what we do. For what we do. And I want to thank you for that. I want to thank you for that. And I can't say it enough. I can't say it enough. All right, guys, I want to take a minute. I want to take some of your questions. All right. I know I threw a lot at you today, but I want to answer some of your questions. I'll try to get some off of TikTok as well. The website is the Back 40 Official, all spelled out. The Back 40 Official, all spelled out. .com. The Back40Official.com. If you go there, you can register just to give updates, and if there are other ways you want to help us out, you can. We're just starting to put video of the different speeches and events and things like that we're doing. We went to Jeff City last Saturday. If you haven't had a chance to look, we got a video of that speech out there on all 3 social media platforms. So you can see it on Instagram, YouTube, and on TikTok. So go out there and check it out. You guys all got called out on that. I called all of you out on there. We talked about the Back 40 and what we're trying to accomplish. What other questions? Montgomery County, Texas. Well, we're going to be coming to East Texas. We're going to be coming to right outside Austin and Burnett, Texas. and we're going to be going hopefully out north of El Paso, out into red pepper country out there on the New Mexico border. Oh man, Pooh. That's a question for another day. David Hogg and the DNC. Probably a little more than I want to get into here. How do you join your Discord? Just let us know when you go to sign up. There's a section in there that asks for your talents and what you might be able to do to help out. But the other thing you can do is let us know you want to join the Discord, and we'll let you know there. We'll send the link to you to join the Discord. Cardinals are running right at about 500 double, right where the Cardinals always are, unfortunately. Looks like it's going to be one of those years. There is a link to the, well, thank you, Doughboy. You called it out. Doughboy's always a step ahead of me. There's a link to the Discord on the website as well. Hey, Wes, I'm good. Yeah, all of Texas is big MAGA country except for the cities. But guys, that's where I want to go. Listen, I've said this many, many times. There is a place for people that go out and just fire up Democrats. We need that. I've done that. When I went up last Saturday to Jefferson City, that was a red meat speech. I was there to fire up the Democrats, okay? To fire up the people that were standing against Trump. We need that. What I'm trying to do is not only that, though, I want to be in front of these people in rural America that voted for Trump, and I want to talk to them about these rural policies that are so bad for America. Krista asked the question, why do you think the Democrats have lost touch with rural America? I think there are a lot of reasons for it. And, this might be the subject of a live because I think it would fill that much time. But I think there are a lot of reasons for it. The least, one of the biggest reasons, to be completely honest with you, is that the Republicans and talk radio and Fox News, et cetera, a lot of people don't realize this, guys, but Rush Limbaugh became popular when I was a sophomore in high school in 1982, 83. That's how long this movement has been around. That's how long this movement has been around. It's funny that you mentioned that, Lisa. Stay tuned. Stay tuned. They've been fighting this battle to change minds in rural America for 30 years, 40 years. And here's the thing, it's working. It's worked. It didn't work all at once. It didn't work all at once, but it's working. And it could take us as long to change those minds. But here's what I know, and this is why I constantly say this. Mr. Global and I are going to do a collab. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But here's what I think. I think that I've got to get that my skills and my talents are best used getting in front of people in rural America, regardless of their political ideology, to show them how bad these policies have been for us. It's not to go out there and call them stupid. It's not to go out there and say, why do you always vote against your best interest in a judgmental and unpredictable way? I feel like my role needs to be getting in front of people and explaining the consequences of us voting politicians into office that don't understand rural America, that don't believe in rural America, and that don't want to save rural America. That's where I feel I can do the greatest amount of good. So don't get me wrong. I love going. I'm going to go on May 8th, and I'm going to talk to 300 fired up Democrats in northern Missouri. That's going to be an incredible night. But I also am going to be going down to Texas to talk to 300 conservative Republican cattlemen to deliver a message to them. And that's where I think I can have an impact. That's where the rubber hits the road. That's just my personal opinion. I don't know about alfalfa prices. I'm going to be completely honest with you. We haven't had horses since I was a kid. When I was a kid, we raised Arabian horses. My sisters would show them, and I would clean up their crap for $1 a stall. So I made $7 a week, which was big money back in the 70s. So I don't know what the alfalfa prices are. I do know that we import a lot in, and I'm assuming that And maybe you know what they say about assumptions, but I'm assuming that the tariffs are going to hit that as well. That's going to make it rough on horse raisers, but it's also going to make it rough on people that incorporate alfalfa into their regular feed regimen for their livestock animals. Yeah, and listen, there's no doubt in my mind that the Democratic policies are better for rural America. I mean, the expansion of Medicaid, the failure of 11 states to expand Medicaid is one of the primary reasons why we've got issues with rural hospitals around the country closing. So I think on the policy front, we still win that argument there. But I got to be honest with you, I've lived in rural America other than from 1992 to 1997 and from 1998 to 2000. I've lived in rural America my entire life. And I can just tell you that there is not anybody out there consistently delivering the message to rural America about why the Republican Party policies are bad for them and why they need to vote another way. So, I'm not going to lie to you. There are some people that say I'm crazy to go out there and spend the rest of my life making this argument, but it's what I want to do. I've got 5 grandchildren, 3 of them are granddaughters, and I'm not going to go meet my maker knowing that I've relegated them to second class citizenship and that I didn't try to fight to keep that from happening. I'm not going to do that. That's not in my character. It's not who I am. And I know that there are a lot of other people out here in the back 40 that feel the same way, that feel the exact same way. What other questions do you guys have? Yeah, on beef prices, this is big time cattle country where I live here. Polk County, Missouri, my rural county where I grew up. It's the number 2 beef producing county in my state, right next to Texas County, which is a little bit further east of here. Missouri is typically in the top 4 beef producing states in the country. A lot of people don't know that. Usually we're right behind Oklahoma and Texas. This is a big beef producing country here. These tariffs, China deciding not to buy $1.6 billion of American beef, that's a big deal, guys. That's a big deal because cattle raisers have been on a run. Our herd levels are really low in the United States right now, and that's caused the price to go up. So farmers have been making some money on cattle sales in this country for quite a while. Well, overnight, back on May 16th, when the Chinese were renewing sales rights in China, they approved sales for pork, they approved sales for poultry, but they did not approve the export licenses uh, for the vast majority of the beef exporters from the United States. And they also did not approve the export licenses for the top 3 soybean exporters in the United States. So that's causing prices to drop. And the other thing that could happen at any time when you're talking about Donald Trump, that's right, they're going to Australia. Australia immediately stepped in to fill the gap of 1.6 billion. The other thing is, will these markets ever come back again? Okay. Look at what happened with Brazil. I talk to you guys about this all the time. When we lost, Brazil used to sell China 13% of their row crops. Their soybean purchases, their corn purchases, all these other things. Brazil used to sell them 13% of their needs. Now they're at 43%, 44%. And those are markets that most likely will not come back short of a drought in Brazil or some sort of turmoil there. And even then, it's only going to go away for the period that the drought lasts. Same thing's going to happen in the beef market. Now that Australia has stepped in and they're providing that beef, we may not get those sales back again. And remember what I talked about at the beginning of last week and the week before. There's another thing happening there. Who of you remember what I said? Who of you remember what I said? the way we've marketed beef in Southeast Asia is through culture. Do you remember what I said there? What kind of culture have we been selling to market beef in Japan and China and Southeast Asia? Do any of you remember that from a live we did last week at the beginning of the week? What part of our culture do we market when we're trying to sell beef out there? That's right. Gladys, I'm telling you what, we're going to have a Gladys day on the back 40. That's right. The cowboy culture. We market that cowboy culture out there. That's why if you've never been to one, when you go to some of these, really large conventions about beef production and slaughter and shipping and that kind of thing, you will inevitably see a large contingent of people, from Korea or Japan or China. Every one of them in a 10-gallon cowboy hat, cowboy boots. We've marketed this cowboy culture as part of this. Well, good luck finding anybody wearing a 10-gallon hat in China or Japan right now. So the bottom line is this is hurting us in a lot of different ways. Because remember, a lot of the products that America sells overseas, we talked about this last year or last week as well, is because of culture. I mean, there was a time in Soviet Russia when people were paying the equivalent of $300 in American dollars in the 70s and 80s to buy Levi's jeans, to buy Nike tennis shoes, because they wanted that American brand name because of everything that went along with it. Not so much anymore. The name has been jaded. Well, hello, Ontario. Always good to see our Canadian friends in here. Omaha and others are asking about bailouts and that kind of thing. Will farmers and ranchers stay with Trump if they do a significant amount of bailout? I'm going to answer that question in two different ways. Yes, the short-term pain would partially go away if they do bailouts, and that would lead a lot of people like our friend Skyler. Once he got his money, he disappeared into the wind, right? It would cause a lot of them to do that. But the thing I don't want you to forget is that there are other things happening in rural America because of bad policy right now. Okay? One is rural schools are getting hammered right now, especially in Kansas. If you talk to our friends like Steph and others out in Kansas, they're getting hammered right now with consolidation, with lack of funding, with closures. And the same thing starting to happen in Missouri. We have gone to multiple schools going to 4-day work weeks, losing money, consolidating, becoming county schools where all of the smaller schools out in the perimeter of the county close down. And that culture goes away with it. Friday night football, sports, going to the Christmas program at the school. A lot of small towns out there. I'm talking about towns under 10,000 population that are more than 50 miles from a large city. They're just dying. There's no other way to put it. They're dying. Krista, somebody asked me this the other day. Do I think we can bring manufacturing back to America without a tariff trade war? I think there are types of manufacturing that we can bring back, but I'm going to tell you something a little bit more exciting. Tell you something a little bit more exciting. You know what excites me? Getting young people back into farming again. Getting young people back into farming again. Getting young people back onto the farm, raising their children on a farm, starting new small businesses on a farm through farm to table. And you know what? We talk about this a lot here on the back 40. You guys, this isn't just me bragging. I'm just trying to make the point. Do you know that I make more money per acre than on my small farm than a lot of guys do that are out there farming 1,000 acres? I think I told you guys this a couple of weeks ago. I went out, I visited a farm north of Springfield, Missouri, 3 acres, making over $500,000 a year on 3 acres. You would be hard pressed to find many cattlemen around this area that are making over $500,000 a year. And I'm talking about guys with 350 acres, 400 acres. And there's a way that we can do this. You know, manufacturing for the most part has left the United States because of labor cost. It's not going to come back because of tariffs. It's just not. It never has. Cass, they do a lot of specialty cropping. So, you know, they raise a lot of specialty flowers that sell for a lot of money. They raise a lot of specialty, you know, rutabago, crops like that you can't just row crop out in a field. Believe it or not, they make a fortune in making homemade organic pizzas that they sell annually. But that creativity is there. And not only do they have their family farming this farm, they've got people that want to get in agriculture, young people living there, farming, learning how to do it themselves. And then they're going to be setting aside acreage for them to get their start. So I'm more excited about that. I'm more excited about getting families back on the farm and saving some of these rural communities that are out there. And listen, I know this is going to sound a little bit hokey. I know this is going to sound a little bit corny, but there's a part of me, guys, that just wants other young people to get to experience what I did growing up on the farm, because my life was a roller coaster before that. For those of you that have followed my story, you know that my dad died when I was 5 years old. And for the first 7 years of my life, we were 100% products of the social safety net. My mom, my two sisters, and I, we lived in government housing. We were on food stamps. It was very stressful. It was very stressful. You could feel it as a kid. And any of you that have ever been poor, especially if you grew up poor like I did, you could feel that tension in the house. And I know these are little things, but I can remember wearing tennis shoes to the point where, like, the little flapper on the back heel, you know what I'm talking about? It would come loose. And when you'd be running out on the playground, that little flapper would be flapping on your shoe. And it was okay, though, because mom would break out the super glue and glue that little flap back again. And you were good for another month or two. And there were times when the only time I got school clothes or new shoes, etc., is when I would go visit my grandmother. And she would take me down to J.C. Penney's and buy me a pair of the Fat Boy Huskies and a new pair of tennis shoes. And when I moved to the farm, when my grandfather came and picked us up and took us out to his 600-acre farm, I'll answer that question, Money. Give me 1 sec. It was life-changing for me. It was life-changing for me. It was hard work. Yes, I had to get up. I had to do chores. I had to clean out a chicken house almost every day. I had to clean out horse stalls once a week. I picked up walnuts to make money to pay for my grandpa. This guy over my shoulder over here, he was old school. That guy right there. He was old school. I was a boy. You know, some of you know who I'm talking about. Yeah, he's like, yeah, I'll buy your school clothes, but you're going to go out there and earn money. And I picked up walnuts and I cleaned stalls. I think I started in 7th grade buying my own clothes for school, and I never looked back. But it was an incredible experience. I can remember in the summer times, guys, getting up in the morning, and I had this border collie named Cowboy. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. And I'd grab my BB gun and I'd grab Cowboy. We'd eat a nice breakfast and we'd head out. And I mean, we didn't come back until it was time to eat dinner. Spent the whole day on the farm, walking through those pastures, walking through those forests, enjoying that way of life, getting appreciation for nature, learning about animals, learning what it means to be self-sufficient, learning what it means to love pure water, clean air, knowing what it means to learn, even though you're raising them to feed the people of the world, to treat your animals well, to treat your livestock well, to have a love for what you do, to appreciate those little babies when they're being born on the farm, to raise them in a humane and ethical way. All of these were lessons that I learned growing up on the farm. And I want other young people to have an opportunity to do that because right now, guys, our rural counties are dying. Young people are moving away. And there's nothing wrong with that when it's your choice, when you want to live in a larger city, when you want to be in an urban area, when you feel right at home there. There's nothing wrong with that. But you know what? There are a huge percentage of people that move away from the farm and move to the cities for a good job when all they want to do is stay on that farm and make it work. That's all they want to do. Jay, you know what I'm talking about. Jay's not lying, guys. You used to be able to, I don't remember $11, Jay, but I remember $20. You get a pair of Levi 501s for $20. But my point is, it's worth saving. It's worth saving. And unfortunately, we got to jump through the hoops of changing mindsets before we can do it. And guys, I'm with you. I want all of them to just understand that voting is in your best interest is the right thing to do. But it's not going to be that easy to change minds. It's not going to be that easy to change minds. Okay, somebody asked me the question about antibiotics and things like that. Basically, I'm a big believer in sustainable agriculture. Okay, I'll just tell you guys that right up front. Everything I do is organic, but I've also got to be honest with you. It's easier for me to do that because of the kinds of crops I raise. I can fertilize through manure and do all the other things that I need to do, and I can keep pesticides and synthetic fertilizers and things like that out of my system. All right. When I say system, I mean my growing system because of what I do. Do I want to see the United States of America move to a sustainable agriculture, farm to table environment? I do. I do want to see that. The thing is, that's not going to happen without the government incentivizing that. And what I mean by that is in the same way that we incentivize buying electrical cars so that people could afford them, that's what Joe Biden was trying to do with farm to table farming, et cetera. So he was putting money into this concept and idea that people could buy products directly from the farm. I've got a freezer full of pork and beef out here in my garage. All of that came from a local provider. I didn't buy it at the grocery store. I bought it directly off the farm. I got to see the animal. I got to look at the animal. I got to see the conditions that it was raised in. It was sent to the slaughterhouse, processing facility, whatever you want to call it. I paid for that. I picked it up. It's in my freezer. I know that it never went through a big beef packing conglomerate and got mixed in with other beef. I know exactly what happened with that animal from the day it was born until the day it became dinner. And I know that it was humanely treated because I know the farmers that raise them. I know where it was processed and that it was humanely done because I know the processing facility that it went to. So I do think over time we will change minds. Listen, we're still trying to convince cattlemen that they need to do rotational grazing. Farmers are a tough bunch of minds to change. I'm not telling you rural people anything you don't already know, but we're accomplishing this change. We're accomplishing this change. So, do I think it will eventually happen? I do, but I think it's absolutely going to take money and it's going to take incentivization from the federal government to make that happen. Wish I could remember the name of the documentary that I just watched the other day, but if you guys want to get like a good overall view of regeneration, I think if you just Google Woody Harrelson movie about soil, it'll pull up the title. And I apologize that I can't think about it. I can't think of the name right now, but it's a great documentary, and it's got a side by side comparison of a farmer that's been using regenerative agriculture to keep his soil alive. Um, and you guys should watch it. Yeah, Kiss the Ground. There you go. And actually, it may be another one. It may be another one, female. It may be another one that's come out since then, but it's along the lines of Kiss the Ground. Yeah. Matt, it's not Biggest Little Farm, but that's another good one. That's another good one. But the point is, it's going to take government emphasis on changing over to this type of system, because the other thing that we can't do is we can't have a drop off in the amount of food that we're processing in order to change over to organic and to sustainable agriculture. In other words, there's no timeout that we can take. We can't say, well, for 2 years, we're not going to produce while we move over to this system of doing things. So that's the other challenge that we face, is we've got to find a way to convert our farming systems over to, sustainable regenerative agriculture without losing the amount of food that we're producing that feeds the world. That's the big challenge that we face. Okay, guys, listen. I want to tell you one more time. If you get a chance, go to theback40official.com. It's Maryland. It's USMC Angry Veteran on TikTok. His name's Matt, USMC Angry Veteran, and he's the one that's going every day, and he's making videos about it. Listen, guys, real quick, go to theback40official.com to sign up, to get updates and that type of thing. We've also finally got the calendar on there. So if you guys go down to the bottom of the page, you're going to see the calendar where we're updating these different events that we're doing real time. The other thing I wanted to tell you guys is next week, this coming week, we're going to be doing a live, should be able to get a video out tomorrow to let you know exactly when, but we're going to be doing a live with a big regenerative agriculture, sustainable agriculture farm out of Western North Carolina. So these guys are doing farm to table all the way up and down the West Coast or East Coast. I'm on a roll today, guys. You can tell I didn't get much sleep last night. I apologize. We're going to be doing a live with them, and we're going to spend the entire live talking about regenerative agriculture, sustainable agriculture, and what they're doing to do farm to table up and down the East Coast. They're actually using from some farms out here in Missouri. They've grown to the point where now they're able to go to other farmers and market their products directly from the farm directly to the customer. So, Rios, I really appreciate that. Listen, I just want to say real quick before I go here, guys, thank you again for everything that you've been doing for me personally and for the Back 40. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the opportunity to go out there and talk about saving rural America. And it's all because of you guys. And I know I beat a dead horse when it comes to this, but the one thing my grandfather raised me to do was to say thank you when you know who's buttering your bread. And I know that you guys are the ones buttering my bread. I know that the success of the Back 40 is because all of you who have been listening here today. And I just want to take a minute one more time to say thank you, to tell you thank you for everything that you're doing to support the Back 40. Okay? All right. Real quick reminder. We're going to be here Tuesday. All right. We're going to be here Tuesday from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. And we're going to be here next Thursday from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. Remember that Tuesday's live will be on TikTok. And then Thursday's live and Saturday's live this coming week, we're going to be doing what we're doing here, where we're broadcasting on YouTube, but where we've also got the stream up on TikTok. So I just want to let you all know that that's going to be the calendar for next week. I will shoot out a video tomorrow letting you guys know what night we're going to be talking to the big farm out in Western North Carolina. Okay. Listen, guys, enjoy your weekend. If you're a farmer or a rancher, or you're just somebody that likes to sleep in and listen to it hit the tin roof, enjoy the rain. Enjoy the rain. Enjoy your life in general. Gather your family. Listen, there's a lot of chaos out there, okay? Join the people, gather around you the people that you love, whether it be blood relatives or new friends that you've made, whatever it might be. Remember what's important. And then it makes it so much easier to go out there and fight for the things that we need to fight for. All right. Okay, guys, have a great day. I really do appreciate every one of you. Let me know what you think about the live by going in there once it posts to YouTube, clicking a like, sharing it. Go out there and subscribe to us. Let's keep getting the word out, and have a great day, everybody. We'll see you.